Before you understand anything, before you try to analyze what this means, I want you to do something most people have forgotten how to do. Don't think. Don't search for the right answer. Simply notice. In front of you, there are 4 stones. They are not symbols yet. They are not metaphors yet. They are weight, presence, density, something your hands recognize before your mind interferes. One of them pulls your attention quietly, not loudly, not logically. It simply feels familiar. That familiarity is not coincidence. It is recognition. This is not about choosing correctly. It is about seeing yourself without the armor of explanation. Emotional weight does not announce itself with words. It settles into the body. It shapes posture, breathing, tone of voice. And most people spend their lives pretending they are not carrying anything heavy while wondering why they are always tired. Now listen carefully. If you were drawn to Stone 1, this message is speaking directly to you. Stone 1 speaks to the person who learned early how to endure. Not because you wanted to be strong, but because you were never given the option to be fragile. You became reliable before you became understood. Somewhere along the way, people started leaning on you, and you did not push them away, because being needed felt safer than being seen. This stone is not sharp. It is not dramatic. It is solid, smooth, worn down by time. Just like you. You carry emotional weight in silence. You rarely complain, not because you don't feel pain, but because you taught yourself that pain is private. You learned to metabolize disappointment internally, to compress grief until it became manageable, to swallow frustration and call it maturity. On the outside, you appear composed. On the inside, there is a constant pressure, like holding your breath just a little too long. Alan Watts once pointed out that the ego loves the illusion of control, but the body never lies. Your body knows how heavy this stone is. It recognizes the density immediately. This is the weight of responsibility that was never consciously chosen. The weight of being the strong one. The weight of emotional self-sufficiency that slowly turns into emotional isolation. Here is the painful truth you rarely allow yourself to articulate. You are tired not because life is hard, but because you never put the weight down. You adapted so well to carrying it that you forgot it was optional. Strength became your identity, and identities are heavy things to maintain. But here is the solution hidden inside this stone. Stone 1 does not ask you to break. It asks you to redistribute the weight. Emotional maturity is not the absence of burden. It is the intelligence to decide what deserves your energy. You do not need to carry everything to prove your worth. You do not need to suffer quietly to earn love. The moment you stop equating endurance with virtue, something in you begins to breathe again. Let me speak to you directly now. You are allowed to rest without collapsing. You are allowed to ask without becoming weak. You are allowed to say, "This is too much," without losing respect. The emotional weight you carry was never meant to be permanent. It was meant to teach you awareness, not imprisonment. If this resonated, if you felt seen in a way that made you uncomfortable, pause for a second. That discomfort is recognition. Comment this sentence below so you anchor it into consciousness. I don't need to carry everything to be strong. And if you want to explore these ideas more deeply, if you want to keep peeling back the layers of emotional weight, perception, and freedom, subscribe to the channel. What we are doing here is not motivation, it is clarity. If your attention was drawn to Stone 2, this message is not here to comfort you. It is here to tell you the truth gently enough that you don't run from it. Stone 2 belongs to the person who learned how to survive by becoming lighter on the surface while growing heavier inside. Unlike the first stone, this one looks irregular, fractured, almost unfinished. It is the stone of emotional contradiction. You learned how to smile while holding tension in your jaw. You learned how to joke while something unresolved pressed against your chest. You learned how to move forward without ever truly arriving anywhere internally. You are not weak. You are divided. There is a part of you that wants depth, honesty, stillness, and meaning. And there is another part that learned very early that slowing down was dangerous. That feeling deeply led to disappointment. That trusting fully led to loss. So instead you stayed mobile, emotionally flexible, always adapting, always reframing, always telling yourself, "It's fine," even when it wasn't. Alan Watts spoke often about the illusion of progress without presence. Stone 2 represents emotional motion, without emotional integration. You process life quickly, but nothing ever fully settles. Experiences stack instead of dissolve. Feelings overlap instead of conclude. This is why you feel restless even when nothing is wrong. Your nervous system never receives closure. Here is the pain most people never name out loud. You are exhausted by unfinished emotions, not by trauma alone, but by ambiguity, by conversations that never happened, by feelings that were postponed instead of expressed, by versions of yourself that were abandoned without ceremony. This stone is heavy not because of what happened, but because of what never finished happening. And now listen carefully to the solution, because this is where most people misunderstand Alan Watts completely. Freedom does not come from resolving everything. It comes from allowing things to be fully felt so they can complete their natural cycle. You do not need more insight. You do not need more techniques. You need permission to pause long enough for your inner world to catch up with your outer life. Stone 2 asks you to stop running emotionally while calling it growth. Stillness is not regression. Slowness is not failure. Presence is not stagnation. The weight you carry begins to dissolve the moment you stop multitasking your own feelings. Let me say this clearly because someone needs to hear it. You don't need to reinvent yourself again. You need to stay with yourself long enough to feel whole. If this landed somewhere deep, if you felt exposed rather than entertained, comment this sentence below and let it ground you. I allow my emotions to finish their journey. And if you're still here, if something in you knows this is more than just words, subscribe to the channel. The next stone does not speak about survival or restlessness. It speaks about identity itself, and why holding on to it may be the heaviest weight of all. If you are drawn to stone 3, this message is not speaking to what you feel, but to who you believe you are. Stone 3 belongs to the person who carries the weight of identity, not pain in the obvious sense, not exhaustion in the visible sense, but a deeper, quieter burden, the effort of continuously being someone. This stone is dense, symmetrical, almost monumental. It looks deliberate, intentional, as if it was shaped to last. Just like the image you learned to protect. You learned early how to define yourself. Competent, rational, independent, perhaps spiritual, perhaps intellectual, perhaps morally grounded. Labels that once gave you orientation eventually became armor. And armor, no matter how refined, is still heavy. Alan Watts often spoke about the trap of mistaking the mask for the face. Stone 3 represents the emotional weight of self-concept, the silent effort of maintaining coherence, the pressure of being consistent, the fear that if the structure cracks, something essential will be lost. You are not anxious because something is wrong. You are anxious because you are constantly monitoring yourself, watching your reactions, editing your responses, correcting your impulses. You live as if there is an internal observer grading your performance in real time. This is not awareness. This is surveillance. Here is the truth that stings before it frees. You are tired because you are managing an image, not because life is demanding. Even your growth has become performative. Even your healing has rules. Even your silence is curated. Stone 3 is heavy because identity demands maintenance. It asks you to defend it, explain it, and protect it from contradiction. But the self you are guarding is not fragile. It is fictional. And now comes the solution, the one the ego resists the most. You do not need to destroy who you think you are. You need to loosen your grip on it. The moment you stop asking, "What does this say about me?" you regain energy. The moment you stop narrating yourself internally, presence returns. You were never meant to live as a concept. Let this land slowly. You are not here to be consistent. You are here to be alive. You are allowed to contradict your past without betraying yourself. You are allowed to change without issuing explanations. The weight lifts when you stop carrying a story and start inhabiting experience. If this unsettled you in a way that feels precise, comment this sentence and make it conscious. I am more than the identity I maintain. And if you want to continue this unraveling, not to lose yourself, but to finally feel light inside your own skin, subscribe to the channel. The final stone speaks to the deepest weight of all, the one almost everyone carries, and almost no one names. If your attention went to stone 4, this message is not here to explain you. It is here to sit with you. Stone 4 belongs to the person who carries the weight of meaning, not responsibility, not identity, not unfinished emotion, but the deepest burden of all, the belief that life must make sense before you are allowed to relax into it. This stone is raw, ancient, almost uncomfortable to look at. It does not look chosen, it looks inherited. You have asked questions most people avoid. Why am I here? What is this all for? Why does suffering exist? Why do I feel disconnected even when things are working? You were not satisfied with surface answers, so you kept digging, and the deeper you went, the heavier everything became. This is the paradox of Stone 4. You are not lost because you lack meaning. You are overwhelmed because you tried to carry meaning consciously. You feel a subtle pressure in your chest or behind your eyes that never fully goes away. A sense that something essential is missing, even on good days. You may call it emptiness, existential fatigue, or spiritual dryness, but beneath all those names is a simple truth. You turned existence into a problem to be solved. Alan Watts warned about this trap repeatedly. The mind demands answers, but life offers experience. When you try to extract certainty from something fluid, the effort itself becomes the weight. Here is the pain you rarely articulate. You are tired of searching but afraid to stop. Afraid that if you let go of the question, life will collapse into meaninglessness. Afraid that acceptance is the same as giving up. Afraid that peace is a kind of ignorance. But here is the solution, and it is quieter than you expect. Stone 4 does not ask you to find meaning. It asks you to trust existence without forcing it to justify itself. Meaning is not something you carry. It is something that emerges when resistance dissolves. The moment you stop demanding that life explain itself to you, you feel lighter, not because you understand more, but because you are no longer fighting reality. Let this sink in slowly. You do not need a final answer to live fully. You do not need certainty to be present. You do not need to resolve the mystery in order to participate in it. The weight lifts when you allow life to be strange, unfinished, and alive, just like you. If this touched something wordless inside you, comment this sentence and let it settle. I don't need to understand life to live it. And if this journey through emotional weight felt different from what you usually hear, quieter, deeper, more honest, subscribe to the channel, not for answers, but for clarity, not to escape the weight, but to finally put it down.